Diss tracks are common everywhere. Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, Gwen Stefani's Hollaback Girl, Hit 'Em Up by Tupac, the list goes on. But where did it all begin? You might guess punk rock or hip hop, and you probably won't believe me when I tell you it was the Beatles. That's right, the four guys from Liverpool known for peace, love, and apparently the first diss track. Hi, I'm Az, and today I'm presenting to you the 7 best original diss tracks that I'm 97.8% sure you didn't even know were diss tracks. First up, we've got How Do You Sleep by the Beatles. After the band broke up in 1970, they weren't very happy with each other, to say the least. Most of the tension was between Paul McCartney and John Lennon, but instead of talking it out like adults do, they did what musicians do best and turned it into music. How Do You Sleep was a direct response to Paul McCartney's Too Many People, in which he very subtly had a go at both Lennon and his wife, which was a huge mistake because there is no recovering from the line, "The only thing you done was yesterday." Genius, both having a go at A, the fact that he's a has-been, and B, the only song that he wrote that did well was Yesterday, while he was still in the band. Number 2, Anyone Can Play Guitar by Radiohead. I bet you didn't know this was a diss track, but it's basically about the ease of fame and the shallow pursuit of music. He says, grow my hair, I wanna be Jim Morrison. And then in the MTV Beach version, he shouted, fat, ugly, dead. Bit rough on a guy who's dead. He said in a later interview that he was inspired by the Doors film, in which he wasn't a fan of the fact that Jim Morrison was presented as some sort of Arthurian legend. But he got his point across. He's not a fan of people who thinks all it takes to get famous is passable guitar skills and good looks. Number 3, Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. You've heard this one, but I bet you didn't know it was actually a diss track directed at Neil Young. In the 1970s, Neil criticized the American South with his song Southern Man and Alabama, and Lynyrd Skynyrd took that personally and wrote, well, I heard Mr. Young sing about her, well, I heard old Neil put her down, well, I hope Neil Young will remember a Southern man don't need him around anyhow. You'd think that'd be the start of something, but Neil Young actually took it pretty well and basically said, sorry, my bad, the lyrics are a little too easy to misunderstand and a little too critical. And they got along so well that after Van Zant's tragic death in a plane crash, he actually sung Sweet Home Alabama in memorial. Number 4, Sorrow Will Come in the End by Morrissey. If there's one thing we know about Morrissey, it is that he is not afraid to hold a grudge, and one of his longest running feuds was with his drummer, Mike Joyce. For a bit of context, we'll go all the way back to 1966, which was a couple decades after the Smiths broke up. But basically, Mike Joyce was not happy he'd only been paid 10% of the Smiths' income, while the other two were being paid 90%. So in court, he demanded 25%, and he won, so he got the backdated earnings of the Smiths, which led up to Morrissey losing over £1 million. And he was not a happy chap about it. Sorrow Will Come in the End was released in 1997, 1 year after the court case was ruled. The song was actually not included in the UK release because it was too threatening, which I feel like is probably a sign that you should probably chill out a bit. But no, he released it in the US anyways. Honestly, if I was Mike Joyce, I would be locking my doors. Because he said, you pleaded and squealed and you think you've won, but sorrow will come to you in the end. I praise the day that brings you pain. The song low-key sucks, and telling the poor man that he's gonna be like in physical pain is a little too threatening, I think. Isn't exactly helping his case as being the good guy. 5, Hot Dog by Limp Bizkit. Bizkit? I'd never know how that's pronounced. Basically, there was a huge rift between Nine Inch Nails frontman Trent Reznor and Fred Durst, the singer of Limp Bizkit. Reznor said some not very nice things about him that I probably can't repeat here to the Rolling Stone magazine, but I feel like they can be pretty well summarized by the quote, Fred Durst probably spelt the word break wrong the first couple of times, and that he doesn't know the man, he could be a cool guy, but his art, in the loosest sense, was shit. Durst made possibly the worst diss track in response. He basically stole a couple of lines from Nine Inch Nails songs as references and then asked Trent Reznor if he could include him as a co-author so he didn't get sued, but it is a diss track. And finally, we have Teenage Wildlife. You would not expect this one, I don't think, but basically, David Bowie was on top of the world when Scary Monsters came out. He just survived the wild cocaine-fueled era of the 1970s. He'd killed off Ziggy Stardust. Really, it doesn't get better. So you'd think the man who had already cycled through a dozen different personas wouldn't be too pressed about some new kid on the block, right? Right? Wrong. Enter Gary Newman, the robotic synth-pop wizard who burst onto the scene with Our Friends Electric and Cars. It was different and it was Bowie-esque, which a little too Bowie-esque if you ask Bowie himself. because he wrote the song Teenage Wildlife, basically saying, "A broken-nosed mogler you, one of the new wave boys, same old thing in brand new drag." Basically, he saw him as nothing more than a trend-chasing poser. And then he continues on with, "As ugly as a teenage millionaire pretending it's a whiz kid world." He's an awkward rich kid who lucked into fame and really doesn't know what he's doing. The good news, he basically got over it in the 90s, saying that a lot of his songs inspired his later music, and also that he was important. At the end of the day, Teenage Wildlife remains one of the best examples of a legendary singer, songwriter, artist getting a little too pissed off at someone who really he shouldn't be. It's Bowie in full old man yells at cloud mode, and honestly just makes the whole thing funnier.